Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a case file that is, well, it's truly bizarre. It comes straight from a high school detective's logbook, and we're going to try and untangle two mysteries that seem totally separate. First, a missing teacher. And second, you're not going to believe this, regularly scheduled alien visitors.
And believe it or not, the whole thing kicks off with this pretty wild offer. So picture this. Our detective, a high schooler named Cass, is just trying to eat lunch, you know? And this other student, Luna, comes up with this desperate plea. And, get this, a super modern payment plan. The job? Find her missing art teacher.
Okay, so let's meet the crew, the key players in this whole operation. First up, you've got Cass, our whip-smart high school detective. Then there's Luna. She's the, let's call her, eccentric client who brings them the case. And then you have Jada. Jada is Cass's girlfriend and, well, she's the team's unofficial and honestly kind of terrifying enforcer.
Look, if you really want to understand how this team works, you just have to see Jada's approach to problem solving. It's something else. When this bully, Travis, starts messing with their new client, Jada doesn't even blink. She goes straight for what you'd call the nuclear option. The threat is so specific, so socially devastating that he just folds instantly. And right there, that kind of cements her role, right? She's the one who's ready to do whatever it takes.
All right, so let's get into this first case. The mission, straight up, is to find the missing art teacher, a woman named Prin Belcour. She's been gone for 3 days, no one's heard from her, and Luna is getting seriously worried.
So just as the team shows up at Miss Belcour's house, ready to start investigating, the whole case just gets flipped on its head. Miss Belcour herself stumbles out the front door. She's alive, but totally out of it, and she tells them this crazy story. She was kidnapped by a man and a woman, held in some unknown place, and only given drugged water. Then, poof, just like that, she wakes up on her own couch, completely unbound. So strange. So, while they're trying to make sense of this, another student, Amber Knox, actually joins the investigation. She was worried too, you see, and she gives them this really critical piece of insight. She says, yeah, Ms. Belcour was always all smiles in class, but Amber caught these moments, these private moments, where she looked just deeply lonely, almost desperate. Suddenly, you're seeing this whole hidden side to the victim.
Okay, so, great news, right? Miss Belcour is safe. But the mystery is a long way from being solved. This whole thing just pivoted. It's no longer a search and rescue. Now it's a classic whodunit. The question isn't where is she anymore. It's who did this to her and why.
And Kaz, our detective, is super methodical. The investigation kicks off right there, inside the victim's house. A quick search of the trash turns up these plans for something called a blanket room, basically a makeshift cell. And that's when it hits them. Miss Belcour wasn't taken miles away. She was held captive in her own basement. From there, the trail leads to a pizza delivery driver, and then, finally, to the suspects themselves.
And this is where all the little breadcrumbs start leading down a very specific path. You've got everything from little comments about the teacher's attitude, all the way to hard evidence, like those room plans and a sketch from that pizza guy. All the clues, every single one, start pointing to two students, Devin Halt and this is the real twist, their new partner in the investigation, Amber Knox.
The absolute smoking gun, the thing that cracks the case wide open, turns out to be totally digital. Cass gets a sample printout from Devin's computer, right? And compares it to those blanket room plans. The whole breakthrough comes down to one single letter, the letter E. It has the exact same tiny printing flaw on both documents. It's basically a printer fingerprint. There's no denying it. It links Devin's printer directly to the crime.
So, the evidence is solid. Devin and Amber are completely cornered. But you know, knowing who did it is really only half the story. The case isn't solved until you figure out the why. And that leads us to the biggest question of all.
I mean, that's the question that's been hanging over this whole thing, right? It just seems so extreme, so bizarre. Why would two high school kids go through all the trouble of locking up their teacher in her own house? Well, with the evidence stacked up against them, the real motive finally comes out.
And the motive? It wasn't about a bad grade or some petty high school grudge. It was about a secret, a really, really dangerous secret. Turns out, Devin had painted a nude portrait of Amber, who's underage. Miss Belcourt found out and snapped a photo of the painting for proof. So they kidnapped her to find and destroy everything, the painting and the photo, because they were terrified he'd be charged as a pedophile and her life would be ruined.
And then, in one last twist, Miss Belcourt does something pretty incredible. She shows a ton of grace. She decides not to press criminal charges. Instead, she lets the school handle it internally, mostly to protect Amber from a huge public scandal. The consequences are still serious, don't get me wrong. Devin gets expelled, Amber gets suspended. But the secret, for the most part, stays under wraps.
So, case closed. The whole dark secret of the painting is dealt with. You'd think that would be enough drama for one semester, right? Yeah, you would be wrong. A few weeks later, their client, Luna, comes back, and she pulls the team out of one hidden reality and drops them right into another one. This time, with a mystery that is, well, literally out of this world. So Luna just calmly tells Cass and Jada, hey, it's almost time for the aliens to come back. Yeah, you heard that right. She claims they visit on a schedule the third Sunday of every month, and she invites the team to come see for themselves. She even asks Jada to bake some Reese's cookies, because, she figures the aliens would probably like them.
I mean, how do you say no to that? You just can't. So the team sets up a full-on stakeout on the bleachers of the school football field. They've got the tripod, the camera, and of course, Jada's homemade cookies. They are ready for anything.
And then, right on schedule, lights appear in the sky. But there's this low droning sound with them, and that immediately tells Cass this is no alien spacecraft. It's a drone. It hovers right over the 50-yard line, drops a package, and then just buzzes off. A few moments later, a pickup truck rolls up. Cass is on it, snaps a photo of the license plate and the people grabbing the package, and immediately sends it all to 911. Cass pieces it together in like a second. These scheduled aliens that Luna's been watching, they're not visitors from another planet. It's a high-tech, recurring drug drop. They're using a drone to make the exchange under the cover of darkness, banking on the fact that people will just think it's something weird in the sky. The police move fast on Cass's tip. They stop the truck, and sure enough, the package is full of drugs. The case file ends with this one chilling line. The drugs weren't just some random stash. It was fentanyl. Luna's innocent, whimsical story about cookie-loving aliens was actually hiding a deadly, serious criminal operation.
When you think about it, both of these cases, in their own wild ways, force these kids to peel back a layer of what they thought was reality, only to find something much, much darker underneath. It didn't matter if it was a teacher's friendly smile or strange lights in the night sky. And it really leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? In a world that's just full of secrets, how do any of us tell the difference between a harmless fantasy and a truly dangerous reality?